Help!
I need somebody.
Help!
Not just anybody.
Help!
I need someone.
Today, Mr. Shalef, we have a very special guest.
Yes, we do. Tiffany Harngsongkram,
Harnsongkram.
which is it's from Thai, so
Yeah.
it is as it sounds. And we're going to talk to her about how to get a divorce. I might call it conscious uncoupling. She calls it conscious divorce.
So not how to get a divorce, but actually the journey and how to hold people there and support them.
How to do it in a way that doesn't screw your entire life up.
And where we're going to do state and shut down.
And where are we doing that on, Mr.
We're going to do that and
Charles
so much more
meet you
on a wonderful chaos. You know, I've often told Andy Shalef that at one point we're gonna have to ask our editor to take every single introduction,
every intro,
all 201 intros that we've ever done,
and
make a compilation. Because sometimes if I'm having an off day, I'll watch a few of the
I
intros.
watch them all the time. They're like my favorite part of any show.
Yeah.
Is to see how we can screw one another up, right? and all I know is you and your catchphrase now, and so much more. If I hear that and so much more again,
does it trigger
you?
It's
fucking drive me crazy.
It's
and so much more.
And so much more, people.
So we're on with Tiffany today, and what I love about shows like this one is that it's another one where I did my Facebook stalking. And
she found you, she
said she found me, but I didn't know that she found me. So we found another independently of one another.
Nice.
And so I saw, and she was posting things about how to get a divorce. And I thought, and what I loved about it, and what I knew at the time, was that it has nothing to do with her work. It has nothing to do with a business that she's trying to develop. It was more like, guys, I've been through this. I know how challenging it can be. So I'm going to put a course together that helps you understand how to deal with it and the challenges you're going to face. So I thought that was really sweet, because I like when somebody from a point of necessity creates something, as opposed to, hey, I want to make some money. Let me try to figure out how to put something together.
And she started this with COVID, she said.
And well, it happened before COVID, but she started the course with COVID. Yeah, which would have been just about a year ago now.
When everyone started getting divorces, as many of you know.
Yeah, exactly. I think I said it at first because I remember saying to myself that we will see more divorces during COVID because people have never been needing to be in this close proximity to one another for that period of time. Like the time away from one another for that work time, no one realized it served a purpose, that I didn't need to be aggravated by you. So, and it's sort of wonderful that we've actually, now we get to see, can your relationship take the test of COVID, pass the test of COVID.
Correct. And we've also had the show Thousands of Divorces.
We did, with Denise Light. It was a very good show. If you haven't seen it, Denise Light, a divorce lawyer, and she told us the worst stories of her divorce experiences, and that show got a lot of views.
I don't know why.
It felt more like a comedy hour. If you needed to write a script for a sitcom, it felt like that would be probably the good start.
Maybe you should connect that also to your friend in Netflix.
Yeah, that could be another nice show. Like Better Call Saul, another show I'm sure you haven't seen, but it was very funny. So with that, I think it would be great to bring Tiffany on. And
just bring her on.
Let's just bring her on. Hello, Tiffany.
Hi, guys. Fantastic intro, as per usual, but I got the inspiration from Andy of how to divorce without screwing up your life. I kind of like that. Has a good, good straightforward approach.
I had a guest on who he was helping people make decisions, and I named the show How Not to Make Bad Decisions. Yeah. And he said, Andy, I hate this title.
I can see why he would say that.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you hate your husband right now?
X.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because like he's not even part of like my reality until I get some kind of message like, trying to put the sticks in my wheels. And then at that time, he's like the equivalent of like the fly, the really noisy fly that's there while you're trying to have a meeting and he just won't go away and it makes that buzzing sound and you can't quite like make, that's the level. So I don't say hate, I say like occasional incredible annoyance.
Yeah, that's beautiful because I think that clearly is the reason why you would have separated, I imagine.
Oh, at the time that I separated, it was like I can't say that I hated him, but I kind of felt like he was like holding me back. And it felt like more like a jail situation than a hate situation.
Yeah. I by the way, you know how I like to joke. So I'm assuming that hatred really wasn't the undercurrent. And if it goes that bad, it's really bad.
That was one of the
No, it
questions
often
you
is.
shouldn't answer, actually.
Yeah, that was one of those questions before the show. I said, don't answer it. That was one of the ones.
So I'll answer everything.
Just thank you. So when you guys separate, was it like an open discussion, or was it one person running off and leaving the other in a kind of confusion?
Yeah, how mutual was this?
Well, okay, so I'm the one that brought it up, and it was supposed to be mutual, and we were supposed to be consciously uncoupling. We were going to do like the whole beautiful Gwyneth Paltrow thing where we were going to raise our kids together and have holidays together and, like be family. And at that time, I didn't know that he was planning something else behind the scenes. So he totally pulled like a bait and switch conscious uncouple / oh, just kidding. I'm going to like try to, get everything I can.
Do you think that happened? Because I've often found, I don't know if you've seen the film, and I highly recommend not watching it, The Marriage Story on Netflix. It's one of the most torturous films to watch because Bambos, give me some space here. I know you hate it when I talk about films, but what
series?
The film deals with a couple that's separating, and then one of them goes to a lawyer, and the lawyer begins to tell them that they're doing it all wrong. So my question to you is, do you think that he was from the start thinking that I need to do it this way? Or do you think other people started whispering in his ear, hey, this is the way you need to do this?
I think you're right. I think it was the latter because, when we were kind of still in our little family unit, everything was peaceful and good and, feelings were hurt, but like it was all good. And then when when family members started getting involved, mother-in-laws started getting it, etc.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, because when you're a couple, you've kind of decided we're going to work this out together. But when you separate, all of a sudden, all the influences from the background start telling you how stupid you are for doing it that way.
Yeah, it kind of feeds on your fear, feeds on your ego death, for sure.
Yeah. And you came from Seattle. That's what we learned earlier.
I grew up in Seattle from ages 6 to 24. So those were pretty much my formative years. So I'm pretty I'm 60% American here. Yeah.
So how do you end up with a French guy? Because we know they're not the easiest to deal with. So how does that happen?
No offense to any French people watching the show.
No offense at all. I am French too. But yeah, so he came to the States on a linguistic vacation and stayed with my family. And my mom was placing the students. He was 15. I was 16. And my mom was the one choosing what homes to put these French kids in for their linguistic stay. And I chose him to stay at our house.
Wow.
You chose him.
Yeah, I got to pick the dossier of the kid that would stay with us.
And you sussed him out then. So you wanted a piece of him before he got to the house.
Yeah, I had looked at his file, and he had promised in his file that he was going to mow our lawn, which he never did.
Which should have been an indication.
Red flag.
Behavior.
We don't want to see it when we're in love. But afterwards, we're like, you know what? He never takes out the trash. You know what? He always leaves the dirty dishes. And on and on. Yeah.
No,
Hey, the signs were there. I can only blame myself.
Yeah.
yeah, but you were also, how old were you? 15?
16. I had just gotten my
16.
driver's license.
Wow.
And
So-
how long after that did you two get married?
So I went to study jazz in Toulouse and reconnected with him when I was 19, and then when I was 21, and we were married when I was 24.
Okay. So there was some period of, how did your parents feel about him?
They weren't very keen on him. They thought he was quite immature, but so was I. We were 23 and 24, so I was very religious at the time, so I was trying to wait till marriage, and when you're trying to wait till marriage, like 30 years old just doesn't work.
Yeah, understood.
No.
And how is the relationship?
Slow down a little bit. How are you feeling as you're reliving this with us?
I feel kind of epic, like it's somewhat humorous, but also like I've lived 3 lifetimes since then. It's literally like regressing into an old timeline. And
Wow.
and in this incarnation of myself, it's like looking at a dream.
Yeah, I ask kind of slow down a little bit because I'm still with you and catching up on everything that you're sharing and feeling. In a way, like the questions are kind of quite a bit too fast for me when I have to talk about something like that. So I didn't want to also. I just want to acknowledge that there must be a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I actually find it really hard to inject myself back into that situation and feel the emotions from back then because they're so far removed from my reality today. Like it was a different me back then, completely different me.
So what dating advice would you give yourself based on where you are now?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a big one. Dating advice. Gosh, I think what gets people stuck in crappy relationships, period, is just lack of self-knowledge and lack of self-worth. And I want to say women especially, but it's just not true. It's like across the board. People have such a generic lack of self-worth that they haven't taken the time to really actually admit what they really want in life and who they really are. They're just kind of like trying to check all the good boxes, like the success boxes or the I did things right boxes. Yeah. And especially at that age, like especially when you're in your young 20s and you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're just like literally trying to, do all the good things possible because you're just figuring it out. And I don't know if at that time I could have figured things out, in my infantile 20-year-old brain. I don't know. But self-worth would have changed a lot.
Self-worth.
At least I would have learned faster. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I also see that I'm 44 now, and as I'm growing in myself and getting to know myself better, I think at least I started to mature just a few years ago. I think until then I was still a teenager, and in a way you become more conscious about what you want to invite in your life. And I'm not sure, it's probably also to do with how many more years do I have in my life, so I'm not going to waste them just on filling up the gap.
Yeah, I totally identify with what you just said. And I think that when you've been through a few cycles of life, a few rebirths and deaths, you kind of start to see the patterns of how things flow. And you start to go, hey, actually, when I listened to my intuition there, things were easy and light and fun and beautiful. And when I was hustling and working so hard to try to do things right over here, everything just got screwed up. Like, you start to see, hey, I need to just like sit with myself and enjoy things, and it will, like trust the universe, it will work out. But if you try too hard to figure things out and do things right, you're bound to just kind of like hurt yourself. So that's part of it for me is I guard my energy and my attention like you do fiercely right now. fiercely because I know how powerful it can be when I know what I want and I focus on it. It, you know, and then when I don't know what I want and I don't focus, I know what a mess that can be too. Like you're just letting other people decide your fate, your future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions about this part of her life, or can we go to?
I like where you're going. I'll just stay on your
Oh,
train for a bit. I've got things I could bring in, but I'd rather you stay with it.
I'm really curious about when you're a single mother with two, and then you're having your ex, someone that you loved, all of a sudden not meeting you where you thought you were meeting. Like, what's happening for you in that moment? And like,
yeah, that, you know, that for me was a very kind of heavy betrayal because I felt like I wanted what was best for him. And I truly wanted us to remain family. I wanted him to have the best life possible. I wanted to support him in that. And thinking that he wanted the same for me as well, realizing that it had turned into some kind of a revenge war situation was so far from my imagination of, you know, how it could have turned. So I felt really, really betrayed in that moment. And I think it took me quite a long time to actually digest that betrayal because, you know, when you're divorcing, there are a lot of betrayals that fall into that because there's so many people who don't have the space for your divorce because they're frightened at what it might mean for them, because they're frightened of maybe their relationship isn't up to par, or it's not fitting in with their religious and moral code and they don't know how to interact with you or don't know how to interact with him, or, you know, it's just beyond their like capacities. And it sparks a lot of fight or flight in people. So, you know, you have family members having little freakouts, you have friends disappearing, you have, so like that was the big betrayal amongst a lot of little betrayals that got me to a place where I really like had to focus on this as my foundation and my solid rock, which I never had to do before. You know, that was kind of an extreme forcing function. But yeah, I just it's also a little bit sad to think that even those closest to you or the ones that you've loved the most or done the most for, because I had been so supportive of him for years. I basically built his career. To have even those people turn on you was a realization of, you know, humanity. Like we all have such light and we all have such dark, and like being in the expectation of both those possibilities in all of your loved ones, in your mom, in your kids,
in your
you
work.
know, in yourself. Yeah. That was like a wake up call for me, because I had been a little bit of a Care Bear before then.
So the thing that which touched me a lot was you and your, like, do we call him ex?
Yeah.
You and your ex had friends in common, or people that you both shared as who were dear to you, and in a way they
took sides.
And they never came to check in with you to explore your part of what was happening. They just picked a side based on what he might have said, and that was it.
Well, what happened really was I didn't have people really take his side, because I'm kind of the social person in our couple. So I was the one maintaining all the family relationships, the friendships, kind of the social organizer. But what happened was people just kind of disappeared because they didn't know, like, they didn't know which side to take. So they just disappeared.
Wow. They were confused. They didn't know how to address you as a non-single unit.
Exactly.
Wow. I mean, I had an interesting moment. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, or maybe it was not that long. I lose track of time now. And it was interesting because we were talking to her new partner, and I was dear friends with her old partner. So when I got married, I invited the her old partner, who is someone I was much closer to than her, to the wedding, and not her.
Yeah.
But I called her directly and said, listen, I'm not inviting you because I don't need that grief in my life. So I stayed in connection with her, and we still have regular contact, but I was very aware that I kind of had to choose one or the other in that invitation, which didn't feel good.
Oh, yeah. And, a lot of people are kind of in that situation with contentious couples. And so this is part of the reason why I'm so interested in solving this problem and kind of bringing consciousness to where we are, because this, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, we can respect each other and treat each other compassionately and not have it be, a war of sides. I think it hasn't been an option so much. And, there are some really amazing attorneys out there who are really conscious people, who are compassionate people, who want kind of the best, most peaceful outcome for people. But I'm finding, for the most part, as far as I've seen, it's a business. It's a business, and it's a business that has dominated the conversation. I can tell you, like, if I'm buying Google ads or Facebook ads, not me, but the marketing team, they're trying to figure out how to get the course out in the market. And it is so hard to get the course out because the divorce attorneys have taken all the Google AdWords and Facebook ads to the point where it costs like $25.
I can imagine $25 to get a lead.
So
amazing.
You can imagine, it's insanely expensive because this is such a prolific business, the business of divorce. And it's just dominated the conversation to make our social consciousness be around the idea of court battles.
Yeah.
It's completely deviate. It's kind of like how it's taken over our medical system. It's the same way with family court. This is not the way we should be treating families or the people that we love. This is not a solution for us.
I would suggest maybe using the word conscious uncoupling and then making yourself the highest on that one. I don't think that the lawyers would like that one as much.
Yeah.
Like divorce. Okay, we got him.
Yeah, just can't use that word. That word is taken.
So what was the thing that you needed, that you saw that you might have needed during that time, that you're offering at this moment with people who are going through the same thing you went through?
So when I went into the topic of divorce, as divorcees do furiously Google everything to do with divorce, I was finding a lot of, and I'm going to kind of use spiritual energetic terms, a lot of low vibe stuff, like super like victim, anger, hate, like a lot of low vibe stuff, and which I identified with at the time, but that's not where I was trying to stay. And then all the legal stuff and the financial stuff, and great, like, you can figure out your finances, you can figure out your legal, or pay somebody to do it because they make it, impossibly difficult to do. But when it came to actually being able to process the emotions, the stuff that was out there was not helpful because it was exacerbating and kind of amplifying the negative emotions that were going on. And they weren't providing solutions, in my mind, that were intelligent. Quite frankly speaking, it's just a lot of noise. So I went to kind of other sources. I started watching TED Talks prolifically, and talks about psychology prolifically, and talks about, consciousness and emotional healing and trauma and kind of other topics, but that definitely applied to this situation and were able to help me figure out what had just happened and where I was and why I was feeling the way I was feeling and where I needed to go in order to rebuild my life. Those were not in the divorce space. They just weren't. So when my friends started getting divorced, I was just like, okay, you guys just, never mind all that stuff. Okay, let's talk about what's actually going to help you. And these are the things that helped me. And seeing how quickly people can shift from like that despair and sadness and victimhood and feeling like they've got nothing to look forward to and feeling like they've just totally screwed up their lives, to a place where they're like, wow, maybe there is meaning behind what's happening and what happened to me. And maybe like I can pull the gold from it and, you know, rebuild something that looks more like what I really want. And, you know, like be thankful even for the lessons that all of that junk afforded me and all of that pain afforded me. I know it takes a little while to get there, but you know, like it doesn't have to take that long. In 6 months, you can be well on your way. If you're not bombarded with all the other noise and busy with all the other noise.
When I asked you when you got your divorce, you said it started in 2012. It's now 2021.
Yeah.
Are you legally divorced at this period or not?
Yeah. So the good news is that we've gotten halfway through the divorce process already. And with COVID, the delays are getting worse. So we are pronounced divorced, and now we head into the financial division of assets.
Okay.
Yeah,
but not the child.
The custody.
The kids. Yeah, the custody is decided at multiple steps along the way, and the custody has changed several times within these years. And the French court system is reputed for this kind of a, you know, situation. Like my ex-husband's parents that I had mentioned earlier took 15 years in a highly contentious court battle here. I didn't know that was even possible until I moved here.
That's a lifetime.
Yeah, like your kids are grown.
I'm completely flabbergasted.
I am blown away. So you're telling me an average divorce in France would be over, say, 10 years?
I'd say an average one could be around 3 years. And if you have contention, probably more like 10. But I have a situation where we had international companies. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't have international companies and get divorced.
Yeah, I understood. You have to like break assets up, and then it becomes how you value those assets, and then you have to decide, does one get that, or it's a mess.
Yeah.
Wow.
Already in one country, it's a mess.
Yeah, the one thing we learned that was really quite fun. I don't know, maybe I didn't learn it on our show, but our divorce lawyer said there's lessons, and she does this tea time. Maybe the funniest 30 seconds I get in a day, where she drinks from a tea glass and she says, "Wisdom from a divorce lawyer," and then she says, and then it says something like "Queen Bitch" or something on the tea glass. She says, basically, no, if you get money black and it's not reported to the IRS and you want to get a divorce, then you can't go in front of a judge and say, my husband earned that amount, because he says, then why didn't you pay taxes on it? And so she just gives these little insights where you think you're beating the system until you have to get the divorce, and then all of a sudden you pay the consequences.
Wow.
Oh yeah. There are a lot of details in that, in those financial things.
Yeah. Well, we won't get into that. I was lucky because my wife got divorced before we got married. And I swear to you, I believe that's the reason why our marriage went so well, or has gone so well.
Because she's had that bad experience.
She's had a bad experience. She lives in gratitude for what it is. You know, sometimes she's comparatively saying, well, it's not that bad. So clearly I could perform at a 70 and I'm already above the 40, you know? So I mean, there are degrees to which I see it's really served our relationship.
You know, I just love you.
and beautifully, since she's also from the Muslim country, right? You've got the other baggage that she has, that once she's been married, and she got traditionally married, now all of a sudden it's already like you're used goods. So basically, when we go back to Indonesia, I say, hey, you know, I basically bought used goods. So the parents even are grateful for me, because I took their daughter, who actually was in their mind someone who they weren't sure was ever going to find another man.
Yeah, I got that kind of same reaction in Thailand too.
Did you really?
It was like, they were like, oh, so you're going to date again? You mean like guys, they don't care that you have 2 kids and that you're divorced? I'm like, yeah, really not. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so nice.
What nice for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're angels. They're like saints if they date me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, like, the way me and Andy live life is we'll get a little bit of a, oh, I want to do this, or I feel I've got this gift and I want to put it out in the world.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
when exactly did this start to bubble, and when did it actually manifest?
Yeah, I don't think I knew that I had anything special until my friends started coming to me. And then
Mm.
I was like, hey, I'm giving them something that is just not out there. And I bet a lot of people are needing this, especially now. And so I just started looking online, like, okay, who else is doing this? There wasn't much out there. And thankfully this year, I'm seeing a lot more, kind of buzz around this idea of conscious divorce. But I mean, it was like a desert wasteland. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, who is doing the healing in this situation? Are we just destroying? Who's doing the, or are we just going to basically going to a shrink and doing therapy for ourselves, but not like specifically around the process of divorce. So
Yeah.
I was actually shocked that I had anything special. And then now when I look at the field of the people that are in conscious divorce, which are not nearly enough people,
Yeah.
I hope there will be an army of conscious divorce teachers and coaches coming, and attorneys and mediators and all. But what's kind of my special sauce that really nobody was doing was talking about religious shame around divorce, and talking about it from like a level of biblical knowledge that, because I had grown up so religiously involved in the church, and I had gone to Bible colleges, and I had studied the Bible in like ancient Hebrew and Greek and translated. And so I was able to like kind of take all that, the heady knowledge of deep religion and go, hey, let's take a look at what it actually says here, and let's talk about religious shame. And there's, that's something that I have deep experience on. I don't see people talking about to a certain level. They kind of skim the surface, but they're not talking about it at depth. And another one is, I've had the experience of being a non-custodial parent. And being a non-custodial
Hold on,
mother.
slow down.
Definition.
We need a definition on that one.
Oh,
Non-custodial.
okay. Yeah. So non-custodial parent is when you don't have majority custody, or or like when you have a certain amount of visitation. So
just let us backtrack for one moment. So the government, I'm assuming at one point said, we're giving the majority of time to your husband.
Yeah.
And they decided that. You didn't decide it together.
No, we didn't decide it together. So there was a little story behind that, because as I said, my ex had declared war. Specifically, like really went to level 10 when I started dating. So, and I found out that that's a pattern. That's a pattern with the people divorcing. So I had full custody of the girls for the first 2 years. And then I started dating, and then he had been living in Thailand. So he came back into the country and decided that he wanted custody now. And so he just before we went to court to decide on the custody, just like days before, he made an accusation that I was trying to kidnap the kids out of the country. Because we were meant to go to my sister's wedding in Malta, which is an island, in the Mediterranean, not too far away, but it was still a flight away. It was still another country. And he was also meant to go. He had also reserved his ticket, but he used that as a pretext in court to say that I was trying to kidnap the kids. And they immediately shifted custody to him, which, it is not a common situation to be in, first of all, for a woman, for a woman to lose custody, to have accusations of kidnapping Kelly Rutherford had a kind of similar situation. But, you know, to have gone from like primary and full custodian of your children to, you know, having custody shifted to somebody who had just moved back into the country, it was like, you know, a huge shock to me. And then I had to rethink of what being a mother is going to look like for me for the next, you know, few years. And how can I be a good mother having only 33% of the time versus 100% of the time?
What an asshole.
Thank you.
Wow. Jesus, I need to breathe. That was a
we have a little bit of a low tolerance for injustice.
Yeah, we've been just how people go there. It's so short-sighted. It doesn't take the kids into account and the impact it has on them, and it doesn't take relationship into it. It's all jealousy and rage and vindictiveness, and you know, in the end, it never leads to anything beautiful. It always leads.
And there's no acknowledgement for the actual love that you guys share.
Yeah, none of it.
Well, yeah, that's, you know, when we go into our fight or flight, people do crazy things.
You have to make the other person bad so that you can justify.
Yeah, you have to make them bad, because in doing that, you can justify anything you do afterwards.
When there's love, you
exactly.
just can't. You can't bring bullshit into the equation when there's love, right?
Yeah, now we've taken over now from this moment forward. We just need to get it out of our system. So Bambos, do you need to purge? What do you need to do? Like, do we need to yell together, or how do we need to let this go?
No, we're good.
We have some comments that have come in, and we have Sherry, who's really been joining us, and we've been enjoying her. So earlier on this subject, we said the in-laws and yikes. And I must admit, when you were talking, I immediately thought, oh my God, I'm sure you have nightmare in-laws that are actually not thinking about the kids' well-being, but how can we take more possession of them? So our apologies that you have to go there. Sherry also says, I didn't marry until I was 40.
Yeah,
and
that's a smart move too.
I think that is a very smart move. I once said, if I had gotten married to every woman that I had a relationship for over 3 or 4 years, I would have got divorced 4 times by now. So yeah, I think the reason I got married to Ronnie was out of convenience. I mean,
round of applause.
We just said we've been here. Well, I mean, who are we kidding? Let's just finish this.
You know, as I was
European.
Just want to take this off topic. As I was clapping, when we first started these shows, Andy had like a series of buttons on an iPad. And one of the things he would do is the clap button. And all of a sudden you have these cheers.
Yes, we might have to bring that back again.
What happened to it?
You know, we professionalized. We saw that there was a level of maturity, like this hand that you see behind us on the green screen. That was the level of professionalism we wanted to move to. Bola Long in South Africa says, yes, I lost many friends and connections because of the divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not about you. That's the thing. It's like, you know, it's so easy to take it personally and go, oh my gosh, my friends are leaving me and my family's freaking out. And oh my gosh, it's about me. And you realize like, wow, they've just, you know, this story has just sent them into their fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
They're the ones freaking out about something happening with them, you know, whether it's their history or whether it's their present. And they're like, you know, if they can divorce, then maybe I have to think that divorce is a possibility for me. And then I have to look at my relationship. And yeah,
I have to tell you, I've had issues with Ronnie. She started hanging out with divorced friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her she had to stop.
It's contagious.
It's not even just contagious. The friends were inciting riots because they didn't want her to be as happy as she was. And I'm like, do you see every time you're going out with these women coming back to her, like how unhappy it was? And now you're bringing that shit back into the house. And then she was like, she realized it. It was an interesting moment because they weren't connecting to the pain. They were stuck in this animosity and victimhood. So if there's a virtuous, call it uncoupling in yourself, because as you know, you called it a death. And I would agree. It is a death. You're mourning the loss of something that you really cared for in your life. And if you don't do that, I could see that it's just it's painful.
It's like a huge pothole that a lot of divorcees fall into. And, myself included, I fell into that one for a good, 6 months to a year, probably, of the whole, like, woe is me and my life is falling apart and I'm the victim, and I wanted to be the victim because that made me the good person.
Yeah. Of course.
And, for a while after, I was, seeking to justify myself constantly. And I think so many divorcees just want to stay there. I'm the good person. I'm the victim. They did this, like, just staying in the justification of everything instead of like actually healing, moving on and going, well, yeah, like there were all those red flags that you were talking about. There really were. Like, and if you can't own that, and if you can't own your decisions, you're just going to do it again and maybe do it bigger, or, until you get the lesson that you were supposed to get. But I understand why people get in that hole, because we don't have a ladder out.
No.
Like, we don't talk about the ladder out of that hole. It's just not part of our societal consciousness.
No.
Yet.
It's funny how that is. Now you think about it, that as you mentioned, there are no courses. I have a question. Bolalong here said, I lost so many friends and connections because of the divorce. I'm wondering, does that mean Bolalong has been divorced? Because we've known Bolalong for over a year. Every day
since your birthday.
Since my birthday. And basically, I would be surprised if I didn't know he was divorced. I'd actually feel like I didn't know an important part of his history. So Bolalong, please let us know if that's the case.
There's something really vulnerable also as a friend when you see two people that you love getting divorced. That it brings an incapacity to, like, hey guys, I love you both and I just feel torn apart and I don't know what to do with this. Or, hey guys, I'm in a relationship and this really mirrors back for me a challenge that I'm having in my own relationship, and it's too painful to be in connection with you.
Wow.
Like, people to actually share what's happening for them in that moment is tough. So in a way, I get it. When people, I mean, when they're pushing away, they're actually saying, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
And it's completely not personal, by the way.
Yeah, not personal. And also, like what you said, the realization that your divorce isn't just about you, like it's affecting everybody in your life. And we feel so much pain when we feel that ripping of relationship. And it's funny because I have quite a few people in my group who are going through like divorces of their business partner, not marital divorces. You know what I mean? Like, they started a business with somebody, they join their lives with somebody, they join their future with somebody, and then they have a disagreement and they tear their lives apart. And it's so painful that it's very much like a divorce. And we don't have ways of like contextualizing that and going, okay, when the ripping is happening, how do you repair that rip and be unified and be in communion together without having to have the same relationship? Like, how do you shift that relationship into something equally beautiful, equally loving, but a different relationship?
I mean, what you're speaking to, like when it comes to business, at least, if the principle of how we work together and how we put ourselves out in the world and interact with our clients, if that's not also integrated in the relationships, then I can imagine it wasn't a very strong business to begin with.
It's interesting to like, when you kind of join your identities, your public identities, and then you're trying to join the way you're showing up in the world. It is really interesting how we have a hard time shifting out of that too. And
I hope you didn't use your two last names in the business.
No, not at all. We use the daughter's name, but that's it's pretty much the equivalent. That happens all the time too.
Yeah. A little check-in. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, and I'm happy to be having conversations of this depth. It's rare.
Well, I'm also asking because, like I said in the beginning, as you're speaking, I'm high empathetic, so I'm feeling everything, and then I take what I'm feeling and I magnify it by 10, and then I know how you're feeling.
Well, it's, if you feel those things physically in the body, it's like a heaviness in the chest of what, the weight of what has happened and the things that have, um, the obstacles in life that you've overcome. And, there's a beauty and there's a sadness in it. Like Glennon Doyle says, life is brutal, brutal and beautiful. And the ability to hold those polarities too is really, for me, key to being happy and satisfied in life, is being able to look at the brutal and hold it and and honor it.
Yeah.
And not diminish it too. But it's that's what makes us who we are as well. Is no way would I be where I am today in my life and in business had I not run the gauntlet.
Yeah.
How emotionally available are you to men at the moment, like based on that experience that you've had?
Yeah, like would you consider dating
on a scale of 1 to 10?
kind of a good-looking guy that lives in Amsterdam, bald with a beard? Is that something that would be possible for you at the moment?
I have a partner, so I'm very emotionally available.
So this experience, I'm gonna talk over that. That experience didn't shut you down.
He's a friend. You have a friend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This one.
He's being
I like his description.
Like I was like, where's he going? And this is Amsterdam. Like
That's a true friend.
Yeah.
So did this journey, how did that impact you in really opening your heart up, actually, on a 1 to 10, 10 being not a problem, I didn't shut down, and 1 being completely shut down, that I had to attract someone that I didn't
Can I also add to this question? Adding to this, I'd love to know, how did you change as a person into this relationship? So is just in general, bigger than just maybe emotionally available. Who were you in that second relation? And that's not a marriage, a relationship now.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, those are good questions. You guys, such good questions. Yeah. So the first one was emotional availability, and I started out pretty harsh. I had given so much in my marriage. I was going to be selfish. I was going to be all about me, focused on me. I'm going to rebuild my life, rebuild myself. And relationships are like utilitarian or potentially had entertainment.
Got it.
Or so, I was really feeding into the whole, men are dogs, men are immature, men are. And it took me a while to get out of it. Sorry?
Not trustworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, not trustworthy. I had spent a lot of time in my marriage as the mom.
Yeah.
And with 3 kids. So it took me a while to break out of that. And
when you say mom,
yeah.
Are you actually saying that I was a mom, but I wasn't feeling like a woman?
No, she was mothering her husband, Bambos. Come on.
Yeah, he was a kid.
So she forgot to be a woman.
Well, she was mothering. She was doing both, I'm assuming, but yeah.
It's both, because you're absolutely right. When you're in that mom role, you're definitely not feeling very sexy. What did he say?
Oh, he's just teasing the fuck out of me.
I'm just having fun with him.
So I thought I would put him in his place by giving him a spank.
You should.
Did it work?
Did it work?
Yeah, it did. It did.
Okay. Continue.
So it was a whole process of being able to open my heart, and started with taking responsibility for how I had invited a lot of bad behavior. And I'm talking about I made the tea, I gave, put out the cookies. I was seriously inviting some really bad behavior, and understanding that I had found a person that was a match to who I was at that time, and how I needed to open myself to a different kind of a match. And now I really honor men and love men and respect men, but my standards are so high that for me to open myself up to a partnership with somebody, yeah, they'd have to be like really, really exceptional person. And so in my relationship now, the dynamic is completely different. We're very equal.
Another paradigm.
Yeah, very, yeah, a totally different paradigm. Like and I'm much less a mom and much more a woman, as you said, actually able to be in my feminine and be in my flow rather than like constantly in my caretaker.
And also in your strength, as it sounds like. Like you're
Right.
actually, so this partner is not afraid of your strength.
Yeah.
This partner encourages my strength to the point that yeah, I think it's interesting because he wants me to succeed so much that he wants me to succeed potentially more than him, which is very, very different. Like he really expects me to outshine him, and he wants to be in that supportive role, which is really uncomfortable for me. I wasn't used to receiving help or support, and I definitely was used to being in that bolstering role. So it was, I kind of pushed back on it actually for a while before I accepted it and enjoyed it.
Wow. I have the same with Ronnie, by the way. Ronnie, my wife, had the same first marriage actually, and then in the second marriage, she was sort of she's often reflected back to me how it isn't easy for her to be with a partner that actually would like to see her succeed in ways that are far beyond, whatever I might even think I would achieve, and not think about it. So for her, as for you, it has been hard for her to receive it because it's such a foreign way of operating. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then, when you're so used to being the person behind and the person supporting, you're not exposed, and your metal isn't tested in the same way. When you're the person in front and you're, headed forward, like ramming forward, you're completely exposed. It's a very different position. And for that, I'm really thankful for people that take leadership roles in families or in businesses or communities, because it takes a lot of energy to be the person out there exposed.
Yeah.
So I've got two questions. The first one is, what has been a very clear thing that you've said no to in your life to be able to say yes to this guy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. I'm thinking about it because I've said no to so much.
But nothing really specifically jumps at you like this kind of behavior is a no for me moving forward.
Oh, yes. It's just that I had so many no's at that point because, when I went into like my dark cave of reemergence, when I separated and started doing the work on myself, doing the deep, like healing self-development work on myself, I came out with such high standards. And because of the clarity that I had around what I wanted my life to be about and what I wanted to invite into my life, my standards were so high and precise, more importantly, precise, that, 95% of things were a no.
Which also narrows the how many people, the potential pool of partners.
Well, it really narrows it, but it makes it so much easier to find people because then you know exactly who you're looking for. There is no wasted energy or time, and even time itself wrinkles and brings, what you're asked to you because you've just put out the magnetic declaration that this is what I want.
Wonderful.
By the way, I need to say something. This is Bambos's life that you're describing right now. So he's not he's not saying, "Hey, you're me right now."
Hey, you're me like right now.
Yeah, this is
everything you say resonates. Like
it's like I'm listening to you speak. I'm like, this is exactly what he's been telling me the last months, even.
Right on.
And my second question is connected to the title of the show. So how does one get a divorce in a way where they feel supported? Like, can you talk a little bit about your role in that?
Yeah. So my mission was kind of to put it out to as many people as possible.
Can we do something fun?
Yeah,
Me and
of
Andy
course.
me and Andy are getting a divorce. Talk to us.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you guys, you want to get a divorce.
He has not slept with me in over 2 years. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Well, you gained too much weight.
Yeah, okay.
You guys need couples counseling, not a divorce coach, but yeah, once you, I'd say, first, people like decide. Making the decision is like probably the hardest part, and some people come when they're deciding, and then getting clarity and getting preparation around that. So you can both think about that on your own sides, but it's a very different mental shift to make from the traditional divorce route, and that for me is like number one. You're not gonna go down and start talking to attorneys and figuring out your finances without figuring out yourself, and looking at these different topics around divorce. Like, I mean, there's so many different tools that I use to actually do an autopsy on what happened, but also like just burn the crap away. What's all the noise going on in your mind, all the lies and all the false beliefs and all the distractions that are keeping you from really like finding the gold of, what did you learn and what do you want and who are you? Like, who do you want to show up as? So yeah, those.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've done quite a few divorces in my lifetime. Not
kidding.
had them, but oh yeah. Yeah, it's quite a normal thing.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, even Bambos's divorce I dealt with, which it was a,
I wasn't married, by the way.
I wasn't married, but it was, I did a ceremony, which we don't have time for, but I was very proud of that ceremony. It was very beautiful.
Ceremony is so important too, just to denote things. Like, that's part of my program too, is just to say, hey, we're going to make a milestone, we're going to mark this. This is a turning of the page. Whether or not like other people acknowledge it, for you, it's important to just like this is the moment where I turn the page. I'm stepping into the next evolution of myself. I'm leaving what isn't, true for me behind.
When you were speaking a moment before Andy
interrupted you,
it just hit me that when people are making a lot of noise and like blaming, like the more loud they are, like I just connected. Wow, the more they suffer, the more they're actually suffering, and it's hard to share. Hey, I'm actually suffering. That I'm losing you.
Yeah. There's like the space in which that happens. When you're so busy up here and you're trying to reason and justify and dissect, and there's all this mental stuff happening that isn't dealing with the real stuff happening under the surface, which is, your state of energetic being, who you are in the world. And people get addicted to this activity because they feel like they're doing something, when all they're doing is really truly escaping this. It's I mean, if I'm being mean, it's kind of like it's like a mental masturbation of what's going on instead of actual healing and finding truth.
And what I was going to point to actually was that in this, so when I am the mediator, which I'm never hired for, I'm always coming in on the back end, and then they say, can you support? What I'm always doing is I'm always telling each party that they don't get to project on the other, like unacceptable, like ground rule 1. What you can do is you can share how it's working for you, and then I can help you figure out how to express it in a way where that you can connect with the other and you don't alienate them. And and in that way, it's sort of like two parties that are separating, but neither one of them can ever use that projection blame as a tool in their arsenal. So like I put a zero like I'll put such a zero tolerance on it where I'll say, no, you like that. I'll do it like this, like a little kid. You don't get to do that. And then they'll immediately fall back into the discomfort and the helplessness because that's what they're, as you said, trying to avoid it just like, how bad does it feel to have no control over something that was so much a part of your life? It sucks.
Yeah. And we need those people in those times when your brain is a washing machine to just go, hey, stop, cut the bull. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's see it crystal clear as it is. And it's really helpful, some, like when I was in that mental spin, I could have used somebody like that to just go, hello, let's focus.
That's the role I usually play in most lives, including my own. I'd love to share the ceremony that I did with Bambos, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you, Bambos?
Of course.
So Bambos joined a 15-month course that I gave, and the course was called Nothing because we didn't give it a name. We just said, you show up, and if you don't like it, don't show up.
People paid a lot of money, and I didn't know what they were paying.
It was for 15 months. It was one of these great things where everyone participated and everyone decided what the education was going to be, and it evolved, and it was really sweet. But in that process, he started with a young woman, too young for him, in my opinion. And
that's the judgment.
and whenever he complained, I never said anything except for one thing. What was that, Bambos?
You're dating a kid.
No, I said specifically a number. She's 21 years old. That's all I said for like a year. She's 21 years old. She's 21 years old. That's all I would say to him. Like, he hated me. So, and as well he should have, by the way.
So at some point.
And she's a wonderful friend. We're still dear friends. We talk regularly, including today. So there's no massive animosity. But in the course, they decided to separate. And
I would say the course made it clear that it didn't make sense to be together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were in the course together, or just you? Okay.
He didn't want us.
I didn't want him in the course. He's so difficult. You can't imagine him in a course. Now he's totally perfect. I'd love him in any course. But then I'd have sleepless nights with you in that course. He had anger issues, by the way, just to get that clear. Yeah. And those were not easy to address in a way that I felt like I could completely take responsibility, because it was even beyond it was beyond my pay grade, that feeling. Yeah. And so I brought other trainers in, by the way, to make my life a bit easier, which was really nice. But what happened?
So thanks to me, the course really evolved.
Yeah, it improved for sure. But the thing was that in the ceremony, and you used a word which was brutal. Like I did not want to make it any more or less emotional than it should be, because if it was just like a nonsensical, I now pronounce you no man and wife, then that would have been comical. It wouldn't have any resonance. So when I meditated on it, it dawned on me that I really wanted it to be a journey a little bit in terms of how they came to that point and now where they were going to separate and how they could integrate whatever had happened to that point. Wow. And so basically they all had a best man or a best woman to carry them to the altar that was set up. Yeah. And then which was a whiteboard, like a typical. And then they were both asked to write the qualities that they admired in one another. In fact, talking about it makes me want to cry right now. It's really hard to because I also feel the emotion that comes up for me while we talk about it.
That was probably one of the most difficult moments that through the whole course. We went through everything, but that moment from was tough because in the morning, in feeling the morning of saying goodbye to someone that I love, I was asked to tap into gratitude.
Yeah.
And there was so much like the cloudy, like the anger and wanting to, like that stuff was going on. And I had to find the breath, and both of us actually take a pen and write what we're grateful for in terms of their qualities.
And so she wrote about 30 items. And then Bambos came up with like 5.
That's bullshit. I'm not going to let you do that.
But they tore the sheet in half. and then they had to give the qualities to the other person that they admired in them. So the qualities that basically she admired in Bambos took, he read them, and then he gave them back to her, and vice versa. And basically the ceremony ended with just saying, now those qualities that you so much admired in the other are now there for you to take with you on your journey independently of them.
Yeah.
And then that was the sort of, I want to cry again just feeling it. But yeah,
this was very vulnerable to hear back again.
Yeah. I didn't realize how emotional it was for me, because in telling the story before, I skipped over it, so I didn't feel into how it felt to have gone through it. But and what I believed, what you said earlier, is that we don't know how to ceremonialize these things in our life. And by not doing that, we're not given a time to say, that's the end, and now I can begin my own journey of healing. It becomes this stagnant continuation without any moment. And I see in society, we haven't learned how to ceremonialize things in a way that allows people to bring closure. And this is one instance of it. Yeah.
That's an incredible example of the ways that we need to move forward, as a loving, compassionate society. Is acts like that are not impotent in their reverberations throughout, the lives of people you're involved with. But I know, for me, going through divorce was healing generations of dysfunction and trauma throughout the families, if not through, friends. It's when we're putting love into a situation, when we're putting gratitude into a situation, we're covering the crevices of maybe generations of dysfunction and trauma and hurt, and ways that we're treating each other unconsciously, and we're finding a new way of being. And I wish that we would have these just as part of life. Like these are life cycles. Everything ends. Your life will end, your relationships will end, your business partnerships will end. Can we just treat it with the space and the compassion that it needs to treat it as normal, natural, flowing, beautiful, kind of, let's honor those cycles, and bring, like you did, just love and gratitude into it. It's just like, even hearing the story is so healing. I'm sure the people watching are feeling, the balm of healing on their hearts, just seeing you model that situation. I just wish that this was part of media, part of ritual, was part of the way we function. There's certain cultures have held on to traditions, but we need like new traditions.
Yeah.
To also celebrate the moments when things are actually not working anymore.
Yeah.
Like
celebrating
the recognition.
Yeah.
And that we're here to teach each other. That was what was so beautiful in your ceremony, was acknowledging the other person as your teacher.
Yeah.
Like I was telling somebody yesterday, they were really pissed off at me for saying it, but that my ex was a soulmate, and that his ex was his soulmate, because they were brought into our lives to teach us some really, really hard but important lessons that we have taken with us and we've grown through. Yeah. And albeit I could have taken the lesson much faster, but I didn't. But he gave those lessons to me, and they've made me who I am. And that's not just a trite thing to say. I truly am grateful for like the things that he showed me in life. Incredible. So I'm not shy to say that he's my soulmate. I'll just say that I have a lot more soulmates.
Yeah. We've come to a bit over our hour already, so it was great being with you. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story. I love it. Really beautiful.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much it meant to me when I stayed connected to the story and didn't tell it like I had before. I actually felt into the moment again. It's very different.
Yeah, I feel extremely grateful that you held that space.
Yeah, it was.
He also held the space when we had a conversation that it wasn't making sense anymore to stay together. And he held that space in a way because we didn't want to start getting into blame. And at least for me, the only person I trusted to hold that space was
Hmm.
this guy here.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
with a lot of pride and love and joy, I sit 201 shows with him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
space holders. We honor the space holders
I
and
mean,
make more
you're
space
also my
holders.
soulmate. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Mm.
I had a mentor that died some years ago, and it's sort of interesting because, in a way, my relationship to Bambos is similar to the relationship I had with my mentor.
Only his mentor was a dictator.
He was a bit more of a dick. I mean, I
Old
like to
school.
I like to tease. He liked to like take an iron and brand you. So I mean, we have a little different means of getting our messages and sharing and supportive of others. But in the end, the role that was very similar to that I had to him is what Bambos and I now have, and I find it really beautiful because as I see the words that come from Bambos's mouth that came from my mentor, then that's the joy I get to see that actually
Mm.
that's the continuation of the gift that I was given. It's always beautiful to see it carrying forward in others.
Mm.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really great. So thank you very much. I still had tons of questions, but I'm not going to ask them because we'll go way over then.
No. Yeah, thank you for this beautiful conversation.
Oh, one question I do want to ask before we go, if people want more information or they'd like to join a course or they'd want even a session, I don't even know if you offer that, where would they go to find that?
Yeah, I do take people one-on-one, but really on a limited basis because I want to focus on, putting materials out there that are going to help people. So I have an online course, but if you search for From Divorce to Destiny, you're going to find me because I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm, a lot of places. And the only live course that I have coming up is Healing from Religious Shame and Guilt. Specifically talking about the Christian faith.
Well, I can tell you, we've got at least 5 shows on that topic, and we've got several people watching right now that have a lot to say on that matter. We've got we've got a cult following on that one. In the meantime,
Yeah, I would say there's a good 40 to 70% atheism
going on. Unintended. Some reason they come to us and they just feel seen and heard, and yeah, they don't have trouble voicing it either. Let's make it clear. Once you've come out the back end of shame and guilt, you become a monster of like, screw you and your fucking your Fifth Testament. I'm over this shit.
No cursing on the air.
What is it now? Okay, her kids might watch.
Yeah, that's the pendulum swing. So
yeah,
that's right in the flow.
That's it. The pendulum. We see it all the time here. It's really fantastic. Yeah. Thank you.
Adios.
Yeah, good to speak with you both. Yeah. Thank you.
It was great to be with you. Yeah, thank you.
Do you know what? I also felt touched when you shared your story about the friend who had the divorce, and then you. I love that you made the call to the woman to say, I'm not inviting you.
Yeah.
Because that was a risk. That was a risk, like fuck you. I'm not talking to you again.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't feel that. Yeah, I know, but remember how I build my relationships. I understand what you're saying, but
yeah.
I mean, if there's anything I would have felt was a bit of shame almost that I chose him over her based on the relationship I had with him. It was through him that I met her. So in that way, there was a degree to which it hurt not to invite her. All right. And I could also see it did have an impact on her because when we had the show, you did hear that her new husband said, yeah, she told me about it. So it had some impact, of course. Yeah.
So you guys never really talked about it?
Oh, we talked about it. Yeah. I call her once every 6 months. I mean, we have a relationship now. Yeah. I don't separate. I mean, look at, we have on the show Magda right now, and Magda, hello. We love you and we know you're out there. And she had to go through her own divorce, and that wasn't easy for her. And although I don't speak with Magda all that much, I feel very, very close to her. She's interacting through Facebook, and I see her here, and I tell her I love her and care about her, and I do believe that she knows that even if we aren't in the regular contact, that it's not for any reason other than we're just not necessarily speaking at that moment. So
Nice.
yeah. But I love someone like Tiffany. We've never met before, so it's really sweet. You could see I felt like I was talking with an old friend, and there's just something beautiful in that. So
50% of the show was about her divorce, though.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised. I thought we were actually going to talk about the experiences that she's had with different couples that she's guided. So
Yeah.
it was really sweet that we also surrendered to wherever it went.
Yeah, I'm more interested in people's backstory than anything they have to offer, and what they have to offer, of course, is the benefit of their backstory.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just love
that also creates credibility. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And you could see that she from how she was navigating the topic, she could tell you the 3 steps to getting a divorce, but you already can see that she has enough value that you don't need to hear that. Yeah.
So guys, thank you again for joining.
Yes, and thank you to Sherry, who's very active. We thank you. It's always sweet. I'm spiritual, not religious. Yes, I think we can say, a lot of us can say that on the show. Yeah. And Bolalang, thank you as well for letting us know that you're on Family 2.0. I would love to speak to you offline about Family 1.0 at some point.
Actually, no, let's just do a show.
We'll do a show, My Family 2.0. Thank you again.
See you tomorrow, and we're going to do this again and again and again.
And this credible pace from day to day on. Wonderful.
So much more.
And tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow.
So much more.
Tomorrow.
So much.
A wonderful chaos.